Music. His family doesn't like me, and neither does this woman, but I'm going to be happy with him. I'll find a way to deal with your brother. In a month, I'll be with a girl. I said, I'll get my revenge from this man. I'll leave him because no man has ever touched me. He spent 5 minutes putting fire to my clothes. He arrived and I still saw the bonfire. Santa Claus of Israel, I've forgotten my memory. Music. Sarah married her brother's brother. That saved her life. Our friend married thinking she was going to have a fairy tale life with a prince, but then she discovered that this enchanting prince was actually a frog. But the frog had a brother. Sarah, how old are you? Today you are married. Yes, 10 years ago you married his ex-husband's brother. I lived with his ex-husband's brother for 2 years. My goodness, this happened back there. It's not your first marriage, right? Tell me how it came to this. I was married for 12 years to a wonderful man in a beautiful church. I had my 2 daughters. I didn't get married very young, so when my 27-year-old came around, he was a very good man. I have so much to talk about him. I told him that I wanted to separate, and he was sad and upset. It took some time, but I said, okay, I'll be here. At home, my mother set up an apartment for us to live in. She accepted me with open arms, even though I was already dependent on her. At the time, I was really counting on her. But then, she asked me to separate from her after she started supporting me until I got a good job. I went to deliver resumes and curriculum, and I got a job at the corner of my house in one of the best private schools that I had ever been to. I'll mention the name, and he contacted me. I was quite modest, and I always felt very beautiful during that time. They needed someone beautiful to work in that inspector school. I worked with the parents, attended the students, and such. I went to the first interview, and they hired me. I started working and enjoying everything I didn't like as a teenager. Then I started to leave, but it was never a woman like I can talk about my accent from my land that. I know that on your channel, we can say certain things that we wouldn't be able to say on other channels. I was never one to be shy. I enjoyed going out dancing and drinking very little, just a couple of beers, and I danced the whole night. I took my taxi, and my trusted taxi driver left me at the door of the house. It was a beautiful day, and I met another wonderful person, a karaoke. We had soup together, and I met him. We ended up going on a date, and we became close. I lived in too. My time with him was really tough because he was a big liar. One day he said he was going to pick me up so we could leave on Saturday, but he didn't show up. I waited for him, but he didn't come. I waited until 9 p.m. and I got really worried. I touched all the clothes he had on and I burned them with his imported perfume. We all lived together and we were married. We lived together in a little house that we rented. It was cute with nice furniture, but I set fire to my clothes. When he arrived, he saw a holy fire of Israel. He just looked at me and said, "Go away or I'll kill you." I called my brother and asked him to pick me up. He said that he did it because he already knew I was a problem. I said, I touch fire. He said he was just hanging out with the cousins and it wasn't a big deal. I was a little upset because he said he was going to pick me up to go to a pagoda in 2 hours, but he didn't show up until 9 p.m. I didn't even answer my call. My brother came and I left with a suitcase, dropping the furniture that I had. I was so happy to help him buy things and I didn't even take anything with me. I went back to my mom's house and when I got home, I felt really sad. I spent a week suffering like a prisoner for this man. He didn't want me and he didn't answer me. I died for him. He was good and cool, but he was wrapped up in his own world and I didn't like it. It was just that, but it never made me feel any evil. I was so excited to go out, but I had to lie and wrap it up. I was in the pit for a week, and a week felt like 7 days. I had 2 friends who had a beauty salon near my house. They said, "Sarah, you're going to love it. We'll get you all ready for the party. Hair, nails, makeup, and everything. Then we'll go out and have a great time." I was so grateful and I said, "I'll take my youngest daughter with me. She's only 7 and I'll take her with me." I said, I'll go there and tidy up and then I'll go." I left with my daughter, and we spent the day getting ready in the salon next to the hall. There was a bar with skewers right next to it and we were used to all this in my neighborhood. They said, "Let's go to the bar to take a beer, eat a skewer, and try to convince me to go to a nightclub later." I said, "I'm sorry, but I can't. I have to take care of my daughter." Beauty convinced me with her charming smile. We arrived at the bar as soon as we sat down and asked for a beer. There were 3 pickup trucks and about 15 men. At the time it was being built in Rondonia, which is my land, Porto Velho to hydroelectric power plant of Santo Antonio. There were 2 plants, so there were a lot of men outside working there. They were strong and smelled of work, but it wasn't that weird. There were about 15 men, and some were minors, but only I know if it was because they were weird or if I was just being paranoid. At that moment, I wasn't looking for any kind of man. I just wanted to enjoy my pit separation. The pickup trucks told me more or less 15 men, but I'm pretty sure I didn't even count them all. I came, sat down, and joined the table. I was quiet with my 2 friends who were as crazy as I am. My daughter and one of them sent a ticket for the waitress for me. He said they had already gone downstairs and put a bottle of whiskey on the table. On the table, they started chatting right away. I said, "As soon as I got here, I noticed how beautiful you were. If I didn't swap a cigarette for a whiskey bottle, I'd be crazy. I'd swap a cigarette for a bottle of Johnny Walker." I don't know what I was thinking today because I never drink whiskey, but at the time, it was one of the best there in Rondonia. I said, "That's not time, boy, change." But without any second thoughts, I went to send the cigarette they sent. Whiskey beauty bottle. My mother called me over and I said, "Okay, I'm in the Don skewer." Luisa said, "You're drinking with your crazy friend, right?" I said, "I'm going to get my granddaughter." My mother went by car there, and she asked my daughter if she had left. I stayed there for a little while. The ticket that even so, I didn't know why they were more or less 15 men like I was. He didn't say who he was, but he did speak. We went out and had a nice chat. He said, "Look at you. You don't want to go out with my friends. It was just a suggestion. You want to go out? We're new here working at the plant and you want to leave. We'll go out, pay the taxi and leave the truck at home. You can take a taxi and I'll go with you." "Oh, no. My friends won't put out a fire. Let's go. Let's go." It was all going so well until I took a seat. Then one of them came right over to the table. I didn't know who was who, but they explained to me, "Everything on the ticket is already working. We want to meet people and such. You don't want to go out to take a walk, so let's go to the nightclub." We arrived at the nightclub, and they had already bought those people, who were all full of money. They bought a bunch of beer and paid for our entrance. I was at a nightclub with a guy who was really into me and he wanted to get together. I was sitting at a table when a guy came over to me. He was in the corner, smoking, and he was kind of strange. I went up to him and said, "Hey, can I get a cigarette?" He was a little nervous, but he gave me a full pack. I was really grateful and he was shaking when he gave it to me. I was with a friend of mine and I said what I had not even noticed. He said he wanted to get lost and I wasn't much in the mood for the festival either, so I said, "Let's go out and talk." I said, "Let's go out and start to see a man in love." He asked for my phone number and I gave it to him. I said, "I'm leaving. I'm taking a taxi." He paid for my taxi and left. The other day he called me at this time. I'm so grateful for WhatsApp. I had no idea these things even existed. I remember that phone from yesterday. "We're going to make an appointment to go out for dinner today." I said, "Let's go out for dinner," and he said, "I'm always happy to." He told me about his life. He lived in Minas in the interior and he had a house there with a car. I thought, why is that not weird? I didn't even know about WhatsApp back then. I remember that phone from yesterday. We made an appointment to go out for dinner today. I said, "Let's go out for dinner," and he said, "Let's do that." He's a wonderful person. He told me that he lived in Minas in the interior and he had a house there with a car. I thought, why doesn't he look like a good person? He asked to date me. I said, "Let's date." I wanted to forget the other one. I told you. We started a relationship that lasted 6 months in Rondonia, Porto Velho. Roofs was a total honeymoon. He was a saint. God, he gave me the sky, the moon, and the stars. I was already 3 years in my job when he arrived. He came back from June to July. Look at my. "Hey, why don't you look like a good person there?" They asked to date me. Well, let's date. I was hoping to forget the other one, right? I told you. We started a relationship that lasted 6 months in Rondonia, Porto Velho. Roofs was like a dream come true. He was a saint. God, he gave me the sky, the moon, and the stars. I was already 3 years in my job and there. One day, he arrived to take me back from June to July. He said, "Look at my contract. It's a cabin job and it's over. I will have to go back to Minas. You don't want to go there to give back. I'll pay your ticket. You go there, take a walk, and if you like it, you can come back. And my job asks for my support, not my daughter's. I have two actually, one at the time, 12, and the other 7. They all live with my mother, who is like an antenna, stealing children. My daughter was born to my wife and me, and we lived in her house. She took possession of my daughter, and they moved to the interior of Minas Gerais. I was used to making life easier for my mother. I am an only daughter. She always created me with everything the best, and I was used to this. I had clothes from well-known brands, perfume, and shoes. I had to have the best of everything. I had everything after I started working. My good standard of living with. My dear mother gave me the gift of a lifetime, and the other 2 men I lived with gave me wonderful gifts as well. My first husband gave me what I burned, and the second one gave me what I burned. I made a suitcase, and I remember buying a suitcase. I had only traveled in Bolivia across the river, and they would give me a loan there, but by plane I had never been. I bought a suitcase and only good clothes. I think I bought about 5 very high-heeled shoes. I packed my suitcase and set off for Minas Gerais, ready to embark on a journey of tourism. Little did I know my future husband Rufus had a surprise in store for me. 30 days later, I found myself walking down the same path he had taken. The beauty of the boy sky seemed to follow me wherever I went. Then my current husband Pedro appeared, along with his brother. He informed me that he was leaving and I was taking a woman with him. Pedro confessed to me that, at the time, my current husband had disconnected the call. They were the only men there. At the time, my father-in-law, another brother, and my husband were all there. As I recall, my current husband hung up the phone and said, "He's bringing a woman." Imagine the train, as the miners say. It's bringing from there, based on the history of women he had previously. They imagined it was all dragons. As soon as I was an aberration, and we arrived in the interior, only that roofs. I had no idea he lived in the countryside. He told me he had a house and a car, but I had no idea they were in the middle of the fields, surrounded by bushes, with no water or electricity. When we got off the bus, my current husband saw me and told me right away. He said he had fallen in love at first sight with this woman, and he thought she would be his wife. He said he would still take a lot of our way in the north. And the miners kissed. I was giving big hugs to my father-in-law, my brother-in-law, who is now my husband, and everyone else in our family, and they were all so embarrassed. We got in the car, and my brother-in-law, who is now my husband, came over. I said, "What time did he get to the dirt road?" I asked because I could only see bushes and darkness. I said, "This is a neighborhood?" Wow, I had no idea what I was looking for in a roca in my life. I said, "My God, from the sky." It was late at night, and when we arrived at my father-in-law's house, which was below, I had to climb a hill to get to her boyfriend's house. Boy, I climbed this hill and I must have taken about 3 tumbles because my city is full and here is just a hill. I went falling and rising and falling in high heels in the middle. I arrived at his house and he asked, "Where's the light?" I replied, "We won't have that. We'll bathe below. My dad's house is under the hill." I said, "What regret." I gave up on coming back. But with whom? I'm going to get there because I left. There was a party for me. Farewell. I was rich. I was a rich man. How will I come back with my? I'm so grateful for the support I've received from my brother-in-law. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been encouraging me to take the 30-day test, and I'm so thankful for his help. He's been so supportive, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. He's been so kind and understanding, even though I'm not working right now. I was in a difficult situation. I was in a place where I didn't feel comfortable and I was struggling to fit in. I was offered a 30-day test to see if I could make it work, and I decided to give it a try. I stayed for a month and it was a great experience. I got to enjoy the honeymoon phase and everything was going well. However, I had to return to sign my divorce in Porto Velho. I had already missed my deadline there, but my brother-in-law treated me very well. I thought it was because we were close, but I realized it was just his way of showing his kindness. He treated me really well and I appreciated it. I didn't realize that it was more than just a friendship. I went back to my land and I decided to sign the divorce. I went back to sign my divorce papers in Porto Velho, and my land. I had already missed my deadline here. Only my brother-in-law treated me very well. I thought it was just his way of treating me because we always were. There was this human warmth in the north and he treated me so well. I spoke to him and he liked me right. I didn't see it as a friendship. I went to my land and I decided to sign the divorce papers. I said, I'm enjoying that bush. I'll be back. When I came back, the man was already another person. He turned there. I went to find out that he was a user. He drank a lot of drips, but for me, he drank socially. Here, I started to see that it was beer. Too much was a lot of pain, and I didn't drink. I didn't even tell you socially. I could. I said something about enjoying that bush, and then I said something else. When I came back, the man was already gone. I went to find out that he was a user. He drank a lot of alcohol, and he drank it socially. I started to see that it was beer, and it was too much for me. I didn't drink alcohol socially and I didn't even tell you. I could follow his rhythm. I went to find out that drugs were making me sad. I was pushing with my belly. I said, now I will hold on. I won't give your arm a twist. Even Danny said, girls never think. It didn't work out. Come back to your house. I'm not proud. I'm staying the same. I was here, right? I stayed, but then when you came back on this trip, you told everyone that everything was working our honey value. Until then, I'm here to share some thoughts on our time together. When I was with his brother, I noticed a change in him. He started to act very unhappy and I had to start using expensive shampoo. I had to use a shampoo that cost 30 reais, which was a lot for me. I'm 12 years older than him and I lived with his family for 12 years. I started to feel sad and I was worried about the drugs. I told myself, I'm not going to give your arm a twist. Danny said, girls never think. It didn't work out. Come back to your house. I'm not proud of staying here. I agreed to stay, but when you came back on this trip, you told everyone that everything was working out. You said it was all because of our honey value. But I didn't say that I lived there. I didn't say that I was falling. I didn't even know how to walk in high heels. So I didn't say those details. I just said as soon as I'm in my land I don't speak. Rose speaks farm site. I said it was a farm there. I had already become a farmer. I had turned into a rock and I was staying. Pedro always I didn't mention that when I lived there I didn't even know how to walk in high heels. I just said that as soon as I was in my land I didn't speak. I said it was a farm and I had already become a farmer. I had turned into a rock and Pedro was always very helpful and supportive. He asked me if I needed anything and I said, no, it's not okay. But over the course of the 2 years that I stayed with his brother, he started to change. He became an extremely miserable guy. I was used to something expensive and I had to use a shampoo that cost 30 reais. I had to use a $3 shampoo. Let's go back 12 years when I lived with him for 12 years. And number 10? I'm with the other boy. I reached a level I thought I was in. I was at the bottom of the well of poverty, but I passed. Let's take a leap of 2 years. I spent 2 years with him and during that time I adapted. I got along very well with my father-in-law. He was a great friend of mine and supported me in everything. And there was Pedro, who was also I was in a really good place, and then bam. I hit a low point. It was like going from the top of the well of poverty to the bottom. Let's fast forward 2 years. During that time, I was with him for 2 years and I was getting along really well with my father-in-law. He was like a brother to me. He had my back and treated me so well. So I was with them for 2 years. One Saturday I had lunch and took a sleeping medicine because I was tired. I was already tired of those nights at home, drinking and being woken up all the time. He wasn't violent until that day of separation. He was sick, that's all. When I was drinking, I had this friend who always called me. He wanted to talk and he was so excited to fill my gas tank. He said he was going to drink at the neighbor's house and I said, no, I'm going to sleep. I said I don't want to drink. I want to sleep. I want to rest all afternoon. He said, okay, I'll go. When I was drinking, the person who always called me wanted to talk, and it felt like my throat was closed. Then there was the beauty of it. I said, I'm going to drink at the neighbor's house, and he said, I'm going to drink there with you. I said, I don't want to drink. I want to sleep. I want to sleep the whole afternoon. I want to rest. He said, okay, I'll take a sleep pill and go. I took a sleep pill and went to sleep for about 2 hours. Then he started calling. I answered the phone and said, hi. He said, go up here. Let's drink. I said, okay, I'll take one medicine. I need to sleep. We had slept for 2 hours. I had to sleep the whole afternoon. He said, don't come here. Just have a cup of beer with us. I said, okay, they only insisted. He kept calling insistently. I said, I'll go up there and go. I took a sleep pill and fell asleep. When I woke up, Serena was calling me. I answered the phone and he said, come up here. Let's have a drink. I said, okay, I'll take one. I needed to sleep for a couple of hours, so I took a medicine. I had to sleep for the whole afternoon. He kept calling, insisting that I come over for a cup of beer. I said, I'll go up there and go with you. We went to a social gathering and I got up the hill. When I arrived at the house, the guys were there having a barbecue and drinking beer. I remember that I had only been asleep for 2 hours, but it felt much longer. It was 3 in the afternoon. I remember that I had a glass of beer. And they ended up going to the bar, which was also here from the garden. Everything was close, so let's go to the bar there. I said. I got up from the table and went to the bar, where everyone was having a good time. I remember that I got up and took a look around. I had only had 2 hours of sleep, but I felt great. In the afternoon, I had a glass of beer, and everyone else had a few too many. Someone suggested, let's go to the bar, and everyone agreed. I said, I'm not going home. I won't. We all got in the car and drove to a nearby bar. When we arrived, I said I won't drink. I didn't take one. I couldn't even drink a cup of beer because I had already had a few. I'll stay here and talk with the staff. I talked with the staff until he said, Serena, he liked her very much. Oh, I'm not going home, I won't. At the bar, Pedro was his brother, who rescued me. We got there in a truck, and everyone entered a nearby bar. I was at the beginning, so I said I won't drink. I didn't even take a cup of beer because I had drunk soothing medicine. I'll stay here and talk to the staff. I talked to them until he spoke like this. Serena, he liked her very much, called her by her nickname. You won't take a little wine, not that he knows that I always like the wine. Then I think I spoke at the boring moment. Too much here. I wasn't in the mood because I had taken medicine. I was half asleep. I thought to myself, I'll take 1 glass of wine if I have a wine time. I even cheer up to endure these cacasero here. I remember that I got up from the table and went to the man who was a gentleman. The old man was his brother. I'm not one to turn down a little wine, and he knows that. I think I might have spoken at the wrong moment. I was feeling a bit under the weather, having taken some medicine, so I wasn't in the mood. I was feeling a little tipsy, but I thought to myself, I'll just have 1 glass of wine. I even got a little boost of energy to make it through these cacasero guys. I remember getting up from the table and going over to the bar owner, sir, and saying, if I so-and-so gives me a glass of wine there. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, woman, you'll put the man to sleep. Today is because he saw the other already drunk chapadeo. He understood. From then on, he erased my memory. I deleted everything up to that point. I only knew what had happened when I woke up. I knew that Pedro was with me, and Pedro was even at the bar, his brother, who rescued me. The bar owner and I were chatting, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Hey, sweetie, would you mind getting me a glass of wine?" He told me, "Hey, lady, you're going to put this guy to sleep. Today is because he saw the other guy already drunk." Chapadeo understood. From then on, he erased my memory. I passed out, and only when I woke up did I know what had happened. I only know that when I woke up, I was with Pedro. Pedro, even at the bar, was his brother who rescued me. The other day I said, "Hey, Sarah," or so-and-so called me, saying that the Fred had kicked you, thrown you to the floor, that you had passed out, that he kicked you, hit you, and beat you. I said, "What lie? Didn't happen." He said, "Happened to me. I went to pick you up, and it was brought me home from my father-in-law." I said, "No boy, I think that. I'll tell you what happened, but first, I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first, I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first, I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... I'll tell you what happened, but first I want to say that I'm sorry if I'm repeating something you've already told me. The other day, I said that it happened when it was in the... He had planned to stay for 15 days, but he kept making detours on these planned trips. He still hasn't returned from his trip. On that day, Pedro and his friends were in the bar when they saw a beating. They called me and we spoke. Serena said that people wanted to talk to you. I'll get down there, but I'll take a shower and put on a short. It was hot that day. He was planning to stay for 15 days, but he ended up taking some time off from these plant trips. He had a trip planned for that day, but he went away to travel and I stayed here. Pedro, who was with friends in the bar, saw a beating that I had forgotten about, and he called me. We talked for a while and then Serena came over. "People wanted to talk to you," she said. I said, "I'll get there, but first I'm going to take a shower and put on a t-shirt and ruffles." When I looked at my legs and arms, I saw that they were all purple. I said, "The man had already traveled and I had just stayed. My God, what a purple stain. Where did this come from?" I let it go. I went down to Marinho's home, my brother-in-law's father-in-law's. Right then, I said that it was people who... I put on my purple t-shirt and ruffles and looked down at my purple arms and legs. I said, "My God, what a purple stain. Where did this come from?" I let it go and went downstairs. Marinho came to my home and my brother-in-law's father-in-law came right then. I said it was people who... They looked at me like that and said, "That's what people want to talk about. Remember that it happened yesterday." I said, "No." Futdiaro spoke. "Now I brought the boys to tell you what he did with you." Then I said it happened there. They said he had knocked me down with jealousy of the owner of the old man who took my shoulder. He had kicked me, and he was with an iron-tipped boot that looks like an electrician's. He kicked me with that boot, and it was very purple. I spoke, waited, and told them all the same version of the story. They still wanted to take me to the police station, but I said no. "People, calm down. I'm not going to the police station now. Wait, let me understand. I'm purple, right?" They said he kicked me a lot, very much, that I fainted. One of them called Pedro. Pedro went there and I came up with him. But I came from amnesia, so his boot was very purple. I spoke, waiting for the right moment. They all told the same version, but still wanted to take me to the police station. I said, "No, people, calm down. I'm not going with you to the police station now. Wait here. Let me understand. I'm purple, right?" They said he kicked me a lot, very hard, that I fainted. One of them called Pedro. Pedro went there and I came up with Pedro. But I had amnesia, so they told everything I said when they found me. I said, "I will end with him that day." I didn't go to the police station today. This day was a Sunday. I spoke not with the police station today, tomorrow, or then. Let me think. I'll call him. I said that your bastard happened. I already know everything. The boys already told you that you were at the bar, that you beat me, and that I'm all purple. Your brother already told me no, that it must. I told them everything when they found me, and I'll end with him that day. This day was a Sunday, and I spoke not with the police station. Tomorrow or the next day, I'll go. Although I got there, I called him, and I said, your bastard happened. I already know everything. The boys already told you that you were at the bar, that you were beaten, and that I'm all purple. Your brother already told me. No, that must be because at the time I had varicose vein problems. Later I had varicose veins removed. Those varicose veins of yours are old. It's no problem with varicose veins in the arms because they also have varicose veins in the arms. Distressed girl, I said like this, I'm going to take revenge on this bastard. He left me alone. Because no man had ever put his hand in me. Then I started looking at Pedro with different eyes. Pedro always was so affectionate. His brother, then Peter. I had a varicose vein issue, but it was nothing serious. I had an operation and that was that. You mentioned your varicose veins and I was like, oh, those are old. I told you about my veins in my arms and how they're purple and distressed. I said, I'm going to take revenge on this bastard. He never put his hand on me. Then I started seeing Pedro in a different light. Pedro's always so affectionate. His brother, Peter, called me to come over to his house to have a beer with him. I said, sister, I went down. We went to drink, but we were the baby. After drinking, we left. We got out of the car, walked, drank, and enjoyed ourselves. I spent the 15 days at Pedro's house. I just went there to take a shower, change clothes, and go back to sleep. On that same day, he invited me to come over to his house for a beer. I said, sweetie, I went with him. We had a few drinks and then we left. After we got out of the car, we walked and drank, enjoying each other's company. I spent the 15 days of my honeymoon at Pedro's house. I just went there to take a shower and change clothes. The rest of the time I would go back to sleep. We spent 15 days of my honeymoon with him. My husband was traveling at the time. You went to your brother-in-law's house, where you had just beaten your husband. It was your brother-in-law who passed away during the honeymoon. After beating him, you called every day asking if everything was okay. I told him everything was fine. I was in my moment. I was feeling vengeful when I was 2 days away from my period. I woke up with him, and we spent 15 wonderful days of our honeymoon together. His brother was traveling, and your husband was traveling too. You went to the brother-in-law's house, where he had just beaten his husband. It was the brother-in-law's turn to be with him after the beating. I called him every day, and everything was fine. I was just in a moment of revenge when I arrived 2 days later. I called Pedro and said, Pedro, let's talk. Let me tell you something. Your brother is coming and we won't be able to stay together. I will have to solve my life with him. He spoke and I said, I'll do it. This year I'm leaving. I'll be beaten when he arrives. I'll buy a ticket for me, but not for the love of God. I'm staying with you. I called Pedro and said, Pedro, let's talk. I want to tell you something. Your brother is coming and we won't be able to stay the same. I'll have to solve my life with him. He spoke and I said, I'll leave this year. I'll be beaten when he arrives, but I'll buy a ticket for him. Although not for the love of God, stay with me. I said, I'll stay with you or I'll stay here and assume you're crazy. I'll stay here and give my life for you. This is our neighbor, we are even. We are neighbors to this day. I said, you're crazy, boy. He spoke and I said, no, he is 9 years old. He's younger than me. I begged, I'll stay with you for the love of God. Let's go and look at my combine with him. I said, give me a. I'm staying with you or I'm going to stay with him. I said, no, you're crazy. I'll stay here and die. This is our neighbor and we're everything to each other. We're even neighbors to this day. It's all about our neighbors. I said, you're crazy, boy. He spoke no. He's 9 years younger than me. I begged, let's go look at my combine with him. I said, give me a month to solve this situation. I'll solve this situation with your brother in a month and then we'll get right. We'll stay with him. He agreed with everything, cute, and then his brother was going to arrive on Wednesday. Then I arrived on Wednesday. I went with the neighbor to search him at the bus station. I brought a lot of gifts with me. I brought a lot of earring, pity my flower. That our flower is different. Flower here is a thick flower. From here it's fine. It's worse. Everything he knows I like to. I had a plan to solve this situation in a month, and I thought it would be great if we could all stay together with his brother. He was very kind and said yes to everything. Then his brother was supposed to arrive on Wednesday, and I went to the bus station with a neighbor to look for him. I brought a lot of gifts with me, including some earrings. I'm sorry, but our flower is different here. It's thicker and more coarse, but I thought it would be good for him. He brought me there to please me, and I wasn't thinking straight. You aren't very sincere because he gave me 15 days of horn for his brother. Then, when Peter saw that I was with his brother again, he got very upset. He called me and I said, I can't talk to you. Not yours. Brother is here. Boy is crazy. He passed Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I was just 4 days away when it was Saturday. Pedro called me and spoke like. He brought me there and I felt so good. I wasn't thinking straight and I knew it. He deserved 15 days of horn. Then when Peter saw me with his brother, he got crazy. He called me and I said, I can't talk to you. Not yours, brother is here. Boy is crazy. Then it was Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. I was just 4 days away from Saturday when Pedro called me and said, This Sarah, I'm going there. I'll take 2 cervejas and I'll be back. I told him that he threatened to come live with him. He said, if you don't solve it and tell the truth, I'll leave and live with her. I told him everything. I said, my God, not for the love of God does this. He doesn't do that. He said do that, and in that he had given a. I'm going to Sarah's. I'll take 2 cervejas. I'll be back if I tell him that. Today, I'll tell him that he threatened to come live with him. He said that if I didn't solve the problem and tell the truth, he would leave and live with me. I said, no, my God, I don't do this for the love of God. I don't do that. He said do that, and he gave it to me. I was alone late, and then Pedro arrived. I called him again. I said, no, he went to fish. He's not crazy. He spoke. So, okay, you will come. I'm something else. I will do. I'm a good person. If I tell you, you will give me shit. If I give shit, it's better to shit me than to be with another man who is braver than him. He is a man of truth. I was fishing alone and then Pedro showed up. I told him, no, I'm fine. I'm just fishing. He said, you're not crazy. I'll go with you. I said, I'm not going to do that. If I do, it'll be because I'm trying to do the right thing. It's better to be with someone who's braver than someone who's a man of truth. Then I said what I wanted to do. I said, I'll get my car. I'll give you the balloon and I'll go get yours. I'll get your things and I'll bring you here because I had to give a Viradinha on the road to go there. You believe he entered his brother's house, took my suitcase, put on the head, pounded in the car, and left. He took the brother with him in the afternoon. When the brother arrived, I had gone on. I said, I'm going to get my car and go get yours. I'll take the balloon and go get your suitcase, get your things, and bring you here because I had to take a detour on the way to get there. You believe he entered his brother's house, took my suitcase, put on the headphones, and pounded on the car door. He took me with him in the afternoon when the brother arrived. I had gone on a detour with only my clothes because I had not brought anything. As always, I came out only with my clothes. He went to try to understand what happened. Then he noticed that something was between us. He sent the friend who was fishing with him. I came here to ask what was happening because he got there empty-handed. My suitcase was there. I went to talk to his friend. Look, tell him that I already know everything. I already know. I just want to say that I'm not going to be able to leave on my own. I've come here to ask you what's going on because I noticed that my suitcase is gone. I went to talk to his friend, and I told him that I already know everything about the beating he gave me 15 days ago. I'm going to stay here with your brother from now on, and we're going to move on from here. The guy took the message for him. This man got crazy and he was very afraid of him. He was always stronger and bigger than him. He is the oldest and I was afraid of the younger one. He didn't want to fight, and he kept sending. I'll tell you everything about the beating he gave me 15 days ago, and I'll live here with your brother from now on. It's over. We don't have anything there anymore. The guy went there, took the message for his girlfriend, and this man got crazy. He was very afraid of him, and his brother was always stronger and bigger. He was the oldest and I was afraid of the younger. He didn't want to fight though. He kept sending a message. He kept sending a letter there, passing the days, sending a letter of love, saying that he was depressed and crying. He sent a message to people here, but he didn't come or move with us. He was a year older, paying attention to one. He sent a passage to me that he said I preferred to leave than stay with his brother. I ripped the passage out and sent it back to him, saying that I wasn't going back and that I was staying here. He sent a letter to me there, and he spent those days writing it. He said he was depressed and crying, and he sent a message to people here, but he didn't come or move in with us. He was a year older than Roofs and he was paying attention to one. He sent me a passage that said I should leave instead of staying with his brother. I ripped the passage out and sent it back to him, saying that I wasn't going back and that I was staying here. Then his brother came and showed me what a man he was. I didn't put much faith in a younger man, but he showed me that he was a good son, treated his father very well, and was a good companion. We hadn't been married yet, but he asked me to marry him later. We were married for 10 years, and my father-in-law unfortunately suffered a stroke 2 years later. We stayed 8 years taking care of him. My brother showed me what a great guy he was. I didn't trust him at first, but he proved to be a good son, a good friend, and a great guy. We got married later on and we've been together for 10 years now. Unfortunately, my father-in-law had a stroke 2 years after we got married. We spent 8 years taking care of him, both of us. I was worried about my 2 other kids, and the other never came to visit or help out at all. We took care of my father-in-law until he passed away. His sister and my family don't like me. The cousins, our whole family, and everyone else in the family don't like me. I was the only one who stayed on the side of poor traffic and no one noticed. I was beaten there and nobody saw. I also put a call out to Maria de Penha. He was also 3 years in Maria de Penha. I'm worried about the 2 other kids and the other never came to visit or help with anything. We took care of my father-in-law until he passed away. His sister and family hate me. Everyone in our family hates me. I was on the side of poor traffic and no one noticed. I was also beaten there and nobody saw. I put in Maria de Penha there. He was also 3 years in Maria de Penha. He didn't bother me anymore after that. That's why I'm asking how things are going now. I live alone with Pedro in the house that was his father's. His father passed away, and we were left. They talk, but they're not like best friends. His brother has another woman now, and he hates me. He doesn't want to see the dog in front of him. He didn't come near me for 9 years, and I never imagined that I would end up with a younger man. I'm happy to say that we've been together for 10 years now. I live alone with Pedro in the house that was his father's. His father passed away, leaving both of them. They talk and they are not best friends. His brother has another woman and he hates me. He doesn't want to see me, but he talks to them and fishes with them. They are fishermen too. They fish, but he hates me. He can't hear my name, but they are normal. They coexist and I hit it off with him. Today, I'm very well married. We live very well for 10 years and my daughters always come for a walk. My mother always comes too. My mother has lived here for a year and is already retired. Then from time to time, they come, and they're so friendly with each other, they even fish together. They're fishermen, but they're also very open with each other. They're both very handsome and they get along just fine. I'm very happy to have found someone who's as normal as me. We've been married for 10 years now and my daughters always come to visit my mother who has lived here for a year and is already retired. They come and visit us from time to time and everyone has accepted them without prejudice. My family is very open-minded, but some neighbors still don't like me because I'm very modest and very religious. I'm the only sinner here and sometimes we find love where we least expect it. I never imagined that I would end up with a younger man than me after 9 years. I'm so grateful for my parents, who have always been so accepting. I know some of my neighbors don't like me because I'm a bit of an oddball. I'm the only sinner here, and I'm learning to love unconditionally. Sometimes, love finds you when you least expect it. I never thought I'd end up with someone younger than me, but here we are. My partner has more judgment than me and my brother combined. I have a simple life. I get a day to myself and I don't get ready. It's a great way to live. I live in the woods and my family says I live in the bush. People are not bush. There's no bush, just a garden, but it's a field with water, light, phone, internet, and Wi-Fi. I have my plantations and I'm happy. Apart and the dude has more judgment than me and my brother. His in my family is simple. I get myself ready on some days and not on others. What a guy with little can be happy. I live in the woods and my family says that I live in the bush. People are not bush. They have no bush because it is a garden, but it is a field that has water, light, phone, internet, Wi-Fi, and television. I have everything I need. I have my plantations, my chickens, my dogs, and my cat. I already created my life, so it is one thing like that. I never imagined that I was going to live, and I'm living. I have something called parents. I slept in peace. This was the one I took. I just don't need peace. I don't need luxury. Only the peace I have for myself is primordial. I don't change my life today for no money or any roughs. I have my chickens, my dogs, and my cat. I've already created so much, and I'm living my best life. I have something called parents. I slept in peace. This was the one I took. I just don't need peace. I don't need luxury. I just need the peace I have for myself. It's primordial. I don't change my life for no money or any roughs. Thank you so much. Are you very much a fan? I keep watching your videos all day. I get repeating understood when has no video. I will watch the article one by one all over again. Thank you. Money is not everything. People do not deceive with money. Do not deceive yourself with luxury. Because then he always shows the claws. Then live with a little but be happy. That's how I am today. Music. Music.